Greetings and peace. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. And I hope you're all having a wonderful month of June 2023, as the summer season ahead will bring its own challenges, rewards, and good times and bad times. So I hope all is well with you and yours. Today's presentation I would like to dedicate to Captain Slappy. And for those that have been watching YouTube since the good old days, Captain Slappy is somebody who always shares the truth and tries to teach humanity what the truth is, but unfortunately many people don't take heed to educators and teachers like that. So I've been watching him since my high school days, and I'm grateful for him. And he's pointing out the truth about how the United States is really a corporation and not a quote-unquote country as we've been taught to believe. Everything here is the laws and the system is made for the elite and the criminals, while the poor people and middle-class people suffer. There are no equal rights. There is no due justice. And even the concept of being free. So if you tell a slave that he or she is free, it's easier to control them. And as Captain Slappy shows in this image, which I give credit to him, this is his image, about how the U.S., even with the treaty, so-called Treaty of Peace from 1783, the U.S. is still controlled by the British Crown to a certain extent. So is my home country of Pakistan, where there's still heavy British influence on the politicians, on their families, the ruling elite, the military, intelligence, and how all of the politicians run away to London for a safe sanctuary. So there are those ties that are still there, not only in the Indian subcontinent or what we know as Pakistan today, but the U.S. and wherever else. There's rules of corporations. So without further ado, I would like to dedicate this to Captain Slappy. And this is an essay that I wrote back in college in spring of 2014. And at that time, I had a professor who was basically a social justice warrior. So he was like, you could write about anything you want. But this essay, in fact, I think touched his nerve. And he antagonized me throughout that whole semester, where I had to leave that class and had to make it up in the summer with another professor who was more better and was not teaching the same course material as he was. So this is an essay which did get me in hot water, and I will share it. So I will give it audio transcript of this essay here for my YouTube video titled, "Is the U.S. a country or a corporation?" So here goes. The American system is an intriguing and unique system that always makes one's mind curious on its origins and how it came to its current state. From the past to the present, the people of this country have been taught how to think, behave, believe, and obey orders without questions. A personal acquaintance had once said, "To rape a nation, you have to get them drunk and dependent on drugs, and most importantly, in a state of constant deception." While the people of the United States think they are living in a free country, that is not really the case. And however, the country is a corporation that is owned by foreign international bankers and interests that dictate the nation's future according to their interests and not the people of the United States. The people that represent this corporation for their proper owners are the president, vice president, and treasury, which holds true for any corporation under corporate law, that run the operations, while the true owners just sit back and dictate their company's direction. Under the U.S. Code of Law, Title 28, Chapter 176, Section 3002, the definition of the term quote-unquote United States is a federal corporation, which you can look up in the Cornell Law School as well. In 1871, when the United States Corporation was established, this corporate entity from the past and up to the present has the power to sue individuals and confiscate property in the court of law. In Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856 edition, under the definition of USA, it is stated, "The United States of America is and are a corporation endowed with the capacity to sue and be sued, to convey and receive property." And the reference for that is 1 March December 177, 181. But it is proper to observe that no suit can be brought against the United States without authority of law. And this is from the Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856, which I had referenced. The current laws of the United States only apply to its corporate identity and not the 50 states of the whole landmass nor its citizens, since each state have their own set of laws and regulations, which make the term United in United States irrelevant, since no one is on the same page. And each country is basically like its own separate, each state, it's like its own separate country with its own laws, systems, etc., where one part of the country or in another state something could be legal, and in another part of a different state in the same country, that same thing could be illegal. So it's really not the same country as one might think it is. Every state, it's its own separate landmass in terms of the laws and the system. The issue can be further looked into with the 1833 case of John Barron versus the mayor and city council of Baltimore. John Barron owned a boardwalk wharf in Baltimore's harbor and was financially hurt after the city decided to expand construction, which resulted in vast amounts of sand accumulating in water, which deprived Barron from the deep water area, which was a major factor to him making a living. Barron sues the city for property harm without compensation in violation of the Fifth Amendment, which gives protection from government abuse and authority. The result was unanimous in favor of the city, as the Fifth Amendment Bill of Rights does not apply to state and local government and only to federal government and its corporate masters. And the reference for that is 32 U.S. Code 243. And it shows you that the citizens in actuality don't really have the rights that they are given the illusion of, which descends all the way into the present 21st century era. Therefore, a U.S. citizen is a federal entity with no rights but only privileges given by the corporation. The United States Corporation from the past till the present has also worked tirelessly in the education area to make sure that the next 12 years of that child's life and beyond will produce an obedient worker for the labor force. The teaching of fixed habits and reactions to authority are taught, which is the first step to blind the critical judgment skills of the child. The social roles being prepared for them, as all their actions are recorded throughout in a permanent record file to decide what role they would fit into by the end of that experience, according to a good or bad record. This level of deception would even surprise Karl Marx if he was alive today. And we see that the schools today are useless. They're just producing obedient workers. They're not teaching you anything important. Those that do get out of school, they still don't have any real life skills in terms of finding a place, knowing how to file taxes. So many things that come in question in terms of being able to survive in this country. No, you're not taught anything of value. Even President Woodrow Wilson makes this statement to the New York City School Teachers Association in 1909. Quote, "We want one class of persons to have a liberal education, and we want another class of persons, a very much larger class of necessity in every society, to forego the privileges of a liberal education and fit themselves to perform specific difficult manual tasks." From Woodrow Wilson, 1909. Those who criticize and ask questions are labeled as troublemakers or angry individuals and are put down by those in charge, because the corporation only wants good, obedient workers with a narrow-minded point of view who follow without questioning. The United States Corporation also added the military-industrial complex as another form of business for a military with a large force and an industry behind it that sees the United States in a constant state of war, whether for money or natural resources, after one generation after another. Some theorize false flag operations, while others look at the business aspect of natural resources, when the corporation sends its forces to spread democracy to a foreign land and gain the support of its citizens by the illusion of fighting for your freedom. Two-time Congressional Medal of Honor winner and a war hero in the U.S. Marine Corps, General Smedley Butler, wrote a book called War is a Racket and foretold the reality of the business of the corporation's war across the world. Quote, "And let us not forget the bankers who financed the Great War. If anyone had the cream of the profits, it was the bankers. Being partnerships rather than incorporated organizations, they do not have to report to stockholders, and their profits were as secret as they were immense. How the bankers made their millions and their billions, I do not know, because those little secrets never become public, even before a Senate investigatory body. This is from General Smedley Butler, unquote. Abbie Hoffman was another individual who questioned authority and knew the reality of the system which he rebelled against. Hoffman writes in his Che letter, "You must refuse to serve in their armies. You must reject the heroin offered in their universities. You must become clogs in their productive machinery." And this is from Hoffman, from the book Portable Sixties Reader, page 241. And this is the book that this social justice warrior professor was making us read for that course, Portable 60s Reader, page 241, where Abbie Hoffman mentions this, unquote. Just like individuals before him and after him, Hoffman was also labeled as an angry or radical individual because of his refusal to go along with the deceptive system. When the men and women come back from these corporate wars, they are often abandoned by the very government they served. The veterans' hospitals, which put them on heavy medications, which only accelerates the problem rather than decreasing. And as we see in the post-9/11 wars, in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, there's 30,000 plus veterans who've died by suicide. And why did that happen? Why did that need to happen? From personal experiences to encouraging a veteran who broke down crying at the bar and foretold the horrific story of shooting up a bus full of school children in Afghanistan, which resulted in their deaths only because his superiors had told him and his fellow soldiers that the bus was empty. And what did the Afghanistan war do for anybody? This horrific trauma caused to the young people by the United States corporation and manipulating them to join the military has rarely led to the good outcomes, but for the corporation, it's nothing but benefits because they have a force to go implement their policies to foreign lands and steal their resources and, most importantly, drugs, such as heroin from Afghanistan, which is brought back to the United States to be sold and made money off from. And as we saw with the opioid epidemic, somebody always knew somebody that they went to school with, that they worked with, that overdosed. So, thank your government for that. Tim O'Brien is another war veteran turned activist who describes this trauma in a story called The Man I Killed. Quote, "He knew he would fall dead and wake up in the stories of his village and people," unquote. And this is from Tim O'Brien, from Portable 60s Reader, page 176. O'Brien describes from personal experience how many veterans die along with people they killed because they never come back home mentally or physically the same people they left as. They basically die over there from their experiences. With the recent statistics of 18 to 22 veterans committing suicide a day, that fact is hard to argue against. As opportunities continue to minimize in America and the conditions headed on a worse path, the American people are waking up to the reality and are beginning to organize and protest against this corporate government who only favors the rich and the contributors who donate. So, again, the people who rule you are the donor class, and don't you dare say anything against them. So, it's the donor class who donate enough to exchange favors. One such movement, as many of you remember, was Occupy Wall Street, where protesters saw how far their imaginary rights took them when they were beaten, tased, and arrested for their peaceful protests in various cities across America, being inspired by the Arab Spring and how the Arabs were taking back their governments from Western-funded dictators, and how we see how, out of all of them, Bashar al-Assad from Syria was the only one who survived that onslaught, and now his country has joined the Arab League, and it's part of that healing process for that part of the world. Professor of Economics Ravi Batra takes a stance against the corporation in his article, The Occupy Wall Street Movement and Coming Demise of Crony Capitalism. Quote, "The fact is that government deficits are not working and have always benefited the wealthy," unquote. Professor Batra's argument is valid as one begins to observe America's current state and realize how the corporate owners have hurt the average American through outsourcing jobs, shifting production overseas, higher taxes, and a monopoly-shaped government which only benefits the rich while the poor are now on the street, with even a college degree being no guarantee of a job, as only individuals with connections are getting their legs into the right door, while a person who worked hard to earn their credentials end up with a job that has nothing to do with the specific studies they took while in college or higher studies or universities. This is the result when the corporate government shifts all jobs and productions overseas just to make a profit with cheap labor, while the average American has to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. especially in today's inflation. And that's why many Americans are moving out of America, if you look up those statistics. The corporate government can be compared to the mafia before they kill their competition, as Mario Puzo from The Godfather puts, quote, "It's nothing personal, but just business," unquote. Analyzing another pair of activists, we have Robert McChesney and John Foster, who are diligent individuals who do their part of the task of waking up the American people. The pair published an article on the Monthly Review magazine titled "Capitalism, the Absurd System, a View from the United States." One statement made in the article should intrigue Americans to follow the money trail behind the problems being faced by the nation. The question we should ask is, what is society actually like when the veil of money is removed and the real face of power is seen? The truth becomes self-evident as the average American sees that the corporate government rather bail out banks and corporate friends rather than fix the foundation of this nation, which is crumbling day by day. When the American public fully wake up and realize their potential, the corporate masters will be in fear as they know that the average person outnumber their elite societies in vast numbers. So the few can control the many. Why? Because they're organized. So the average person has to get organized as well. The days of the few controlling the many will come to an end as many Americans and people around the world begin to realize that there is something wrong with the world that doesn't make sense and begin following the corporate money trail to the source of the problems. In 1962, the Students for a Democratic Society wrote a paper that stresses to the people on coming in full circle on their unalienable rights and potential. Quote, "Men have unrealized potential for self-cultivation, self-direction, self-understanding, and creativity," unquote. The day is coming soon when the people of America and the rest of the world take back control of their futures from the corporate machine that only seeks to destroy it, and freedom is in sight for all of mankind. And to end the audio transcription of my essay, this is the essay that I wrote in spring of 2014. They got me in hot water with a so-called social justice professor who wanted us to be free and write about anything we wanted. So here I dedicate this to my friend and brother, Captain Slappy, who's been doing great work. And I hope you were able to benefit from this. And if you have any questions or comments or the references that I used in this essay, please let me know. And I thank you all, and I encourage you all, please keep an open mind, because the history we've been told, the facts that we've been told, oh, you're free, this is a free country, or these people are free, or everything is fine. No, it's not fine. And that's why our world is in the condition that it is today. So question everything, including everything that you've been taught from childhood up until adulthood. Question everything and always verify everything, and always come to your own conclusions. So I hope you benefited from this, and please reach out to me if any questions or concerns. Thank you so much.